Nambour, I feel, is a good spot for first home buyers. It's going through a bit of a gentrification and a renaissance and everything like that. And you're starting to see a changing in the guard. So you're going from that sort of more low social economic area to families moving into the area and starting off their life and their journey and everything like that. Burnside, which is a surrounding suburb of Nambour, has actually gone for a decent little run. And I'll just share my Google Maps so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So Nambour is more in it's a little bit hilly through there, but it's more like a valley. So you're not getting the absolute cracking views that you would get of the hinterland sort of region, like you get out of Montville or Maleny, which is a little bit to the south, and absolute picturesque views over the whole Sunshine Coast area. Nambour's more that sort of working town. It's where the hospital used to be before they built the Sunshine Coast University Hospital. So that was the main hospital. It was also where Maroochydore had their council offices and still do have their council offices in the area. And it's a little bit more of an industrial area. So there's also light gauge rail that still is used, like the rail line, the heavy gauge rail still used through there. But there's also light gauge rail that sort of runs through Nambour itself, and that's used around the sugarcane season and collecting all that sugarcane to then take it off to the mill. So it is more of that sort of, originally it was more of a working man sort of town. It is starting to gentrify. There are a lot of first home buyers moving in there because it is still cheap and affordable. So medium price for a four bedder in that area, you're looking at around about 945,000. A unit or a townhouse for a two bedder, you're looking at that medium price of around about 630,000. Burnside, which is just one suburb sort of to the southwest of Nambour, has already popped, and your median price out there is around about 1,070,000. So there's been some good capital growth, and a few of the other suburbs in and around there, like Woombai, which is down here, it's going through a bit of a renaissance as well, and just starting to see some really big increases in the prices and the affordability in that area. So Nambour is still affordable, and it's still an area that you can look at potentially getting a 4 or 3 bedroom home under that $1 million mark. It might need a little bit of renovating, it might need a little bit of work, but it's somewhere where first home buyers can still buy into on the Sunshine Coast and get something substantial. It is one of the few places left on the Sunshine Coast that you can get it. The other spots that I think of is Bly, but you're not getting a 4 bedroom in there under $1 million. You're getting a 3 bedder. You're getting something on a decent sized block of dirt in that area, but you're not getting a 4 bedroom. Yandina, if you're lucky, you'll get something on a small block for under $1 million, but they're few and far between, and you're talking a 350 to 400 square meter block. So if you're looking for that sort of more traditional 600 to 800 square meter block of dirt, Nambour is going to be that go-to where you're going to be able to get something in that sort of high nines, very, very low ones, and that's still attainable for the first home buyers on the Sunshine Coast. If you're happy to sacrifice having a house for, say, a townhouse, I would say that would open up other options for you. So I had some first home buyers late last year. They needed to be up on the Sunshine Coast. They were considering a house. Another spot where you can get something, but once again, you're not getting anything that is big, is going to be Palmview, but you're looking at really, really small blocks, and you're looking at, so that there's a free standalone house, but it looks like a townhouse. So your garage and your back property line is there, the front of your property is there. There's really no land content besides what you've built on top, and something like that's going to be going into the low to late 900s. So, you know, you're looking at a shoebox in Palmview, or you're coming down to Aura, which is a massive Stocklands development, and you're looking at Betinia, and once again, if you have a look at it, you can see that they're all just tightly packed in there. So you're looking at something, a brand new area. Once again, you're looking at probably one of those sort of terrace homes or something like that, which is potentially a 3-bedder, 1 car, 2 bathroom on a 300 square meter block. So you're looking at that sort of shoebox where Nambour, if we zoom in over here at Nambour, we'll just take a look at Old 23 here, and I just change over. You're looking at something that's on a double block. You're still looking at stuff that's got that bit of land content to it. Yeah, 100%. I always like to say that it's either land or land content that you're looking for. So land is obviously the size of the block of dirt and how much land you're actually getting out of that. And then land content is what is the value of that overall development. So if I'm buying in a townhouse complex or if I'm buying in a unit, how many units are in that area and how big is that land, and effectively what is my land content of that area. So if we take a nice easy one for the punters out there and we take it for the nice easy sort of numbers, we're looking at say a 2,000 square meter block of land and there's 10 townhouses on it. Now you may only control and own where the townhouse sits on that block, and then you might have exclusive use over your little back patio area and your front courtyard, but you technically may not own it. It may not be on title. What's on title is basically your 4 walls. But if you go, okay, there's 10 townhouses and 2,000 square meters, your land content is 200 square meters. So even though you don't physically own it, it's not yours, you can't knock down the townhouse that's on it, redevelop it and build something within that 200 square meters. If there's a bit of common area in the backyard, you can't go and peg out 10 or 20 square meters of land and go, that's my veggie patch, that's a part of my land content. You effectively control 200 square meters of land in that area, and it comes down to, well, what is that area and where's that location? So where I was talking before in regards to some first home buyers, we ended up buying something at Cotton Tree for them. And we bought, in a sense, that land content component. So we bought a little townhouse here, and basically what's on title is under their roof line. They have exclusive use over that courtyard there. They've got the pool. So the pool is common area and shared between everybody within that. But if you have a look at that location, they're right there to the Maroochydore River. They're about a 5-minute walk. To the council pool, they're about a 5-minute walk as well. From there down to the access to the beach, and whether you walk down that route to get to the beach or this route here, you're looking at a 7-minute walk. And from there to the surf club, where you can get an absolute great feed. And I know that because when we go on holidays, we stay right there at that place. And because we've got young kids, nice and easy to go down to the surf club to get them a feed. They can have their fish or their chicken nuggets, and we can get something quite nice, whether it be the roast of the day, a steak or some seafood. And then you've got the beach access right there, which is absolutely spectacular. You've got a caravan park there, but it's not your traditional caravan park, so it's not something that it's more for, it's campgrounds with caravans and other bits and pieces, and it's more classy. So from a location point of view, they got that for $895, and we're under contract on that one in October last year. So great little location there. That property's worth probably around about that $1 million mark now, with what's popped and gone on in and around that area. But you could argue that their land content there, even though they only own a small land content, is more desirable and valuable than what land value would be of the land that they owned in Nambour. So it comes down to what that picture looks like, and once again drilling down into the client and what their needs are and what they're looking for. You know, are they looking for that spot to raise their family? Are they going to have kids? Do they not want to have to move again in, say, 2 to 5 years? And if that's the case, then Nambour is probably that better option for them. You know, the smaller homes, as a father of a 6 and a 2-year-old and another one on the way, you know, you need that space for all their toys and all their junk. You'd be surprised how much stuff the grandparents and friends and family buy for them and how much it takes up of the house. Yes, because you've got more options to it. So you've got the option of, you know, potentially subdividing. You know, I showed you a couple of properties just before when we zoomed in that there's a few splitter blocks in there. So those splitter blocks are going to attract more buyers potentially down the track that may want to look at splitting the block and trying to sell off too, or building a new home on it. So that's going to attract more buyers, and with more buyers, more competition, that pushes the prices higher. On the flip side of that question, it then comes down to location as well. I would argue that a 800 square metre splitter block in Nambour would potentially grow at the same rate, maybe a fraction slower, and I'm talking like 0.5% slower than the townhouse here, because this location is going to attract a lot more people. You're going to get those people that sit there and go, I could buy that and Airbnb it. You're going to get those people of, you know, how cool is this for our first home? We don't have any kids yet. We're happy to potentially make that next move. We'll keep this as an investment property down the track. You know, I'm developing my career as, you know, a nurse or an occupational therapist or a speech therapist or something along those lines. And the husband might be developing his business or his career in the medical field, or, you know, he might be recently promoted to the complex manager of the Bunnings store or the Officeworks or along those lines. So he might be climbing that corporate ladder. So they're not going to be there for the next 20 years, but for their lifestyle factor and for that land content and that desire of people wanting to be in that location is going to potentially push that price higher. So for me, it's either size of land, or we want a really, really good quality home, but cheap in an amazing location that every man and his dog's going to take one look at it and go, yeah, I could do this. I want this. This could be mine. So if you're more a hinterland person and love being up where the trees and everything like that, I would argue it's got better access to the likes of Montville and Maleny. And if I can zoom in here, I'll see if I can quickly bring up some photos so you can have a bit of a look at what I mean by in regards to that sort of hinterland location. So, you know, you've got those more picturesque spots. So if this is something that makes you go, oh wow, you've got easier access to that. So if this is your jam in a sense and you like this area and you like that sort of look, Maleny and Montville are those two probably premier spots of that sort of bushland and those picturesque sort of locations, and what that sort of looks like as that greater picture. So if this is what you love, I would argue that Nambour's got better access to that area. If you're more of a beach goer and you want to be close to the beach, then Nambour's got great access too. So if we have a look at Nambour here, you've got a couple of different ways. So you can either come down Bly Road and then come straight down through Bly, and then you hit basically where the Sunshine Coast Airport is. You can go to Majimba or down towards Twin Waters and the beach down there, or you can come up north to where I was talking before about Coolum Beach, and you can connect up to Noosa and go to Noosa. So there's a couple of different ways. You can either take the highway and then come in through Yamundi. Sorry, Yamundi's here. No, Yamundi's here. I was right. Sorry. and then come down into Noosa, or you can potentially take the Bly Road, get onto David Low Way. It's a little bit longer. There's going to be a bit of traffic. There's going to be some slow points driving through like Coolum and a few of the townships like Pridgeon Beach. But it's a beautiful, spectacular drive. And if you're looking for that sort of Sunday afternoon drive, it's a great spot to go cruising along there. If you want to get into the city centre, so if you're working in the new city centre, which is here, which is the old golf course, and they're building, so next gen data center is actually going in right here. So they're actually spanning this out, and that's the next gen data center for the Sunshine Coast. So if you're working in the CBD part of Maroochydore, it's right there. If you're, potentially in Sunshine Plaza, so you're one of the store managers or something, you're right there. If you want the connectivity to the beachfront along Alexandria and that sort of thing, you're looking at that sort of 30 to 40 minute drive. So connectivity out of it is good. So you've got a couple of different ways you can go. You can come down through Woombye and then out through there. You can go down Bly, or you can sort of go up and come back in. It just comes down to what that traffic picture looks like. But you're about a 30 to 40 minute drive away from those sort of main attractions, if that makes sense.